Okay, so you like Clover brewed coffee, but you don't want to spend $6,000 on a Clover machine. Well, guess what? You can do it at home. And you'll see people on the internet talking about how to do this with a French press. The only problem with that is that Clover Brewing works off of suction, and you don't get a whole hell of a lot of suction off of a French press. But this little baby has that nice big stopper in there, and that, when you pull back, will generate a ton of suction. So what you can do is set this up for inverted brewing. Get yourself one of those, the metal brew disc for the AeroPress, and use a paper filter. You could probably get away with just the metal disc, but the paper filter, I think, actually helps do a little bit extra filtering on it, and I'll show you what I mean in a second. But put the paper filter in first. I've already wetted this. Put this on top and screw this on. Now, what you're going to do is, actually, let me do it. In fact, you could hear that pop. I'm actually going to do it this way. So, use this to measure your water and fill it all the way to the top up here. Because when you do AeroPress, this is generally filled with coffee. So when you fill it all the way up, you're compensating for that. You got to pretend, because the coffee's going in this bowl here, so you got to compensate for this. So fill this to the top with water. I'm using 190 degrees because you'll see why in a second. Normally I would brew AeroPress at 185, but what's going to happen here will make perfect sense in a second. So get your top on. I've got 15 grams of some home roasted Peruvian. That's nice. Dump that in the bowl. And then turn this over and remove the plunger, and you get a nice little sprinkle effect. So you can wet down the grounds, and if you wanted to do pre-infusion too, you could stop it simply by putting this back in. That'll stop the drip. I just let it keep going. That's why I heated the water up hotter than I normally would, because that dripping's cooling it down. As it gets towards the bottom, you're going to have gravity not helping you as much because of the weight of the water, so you can just pop the plunger in here and get the rest of the water out. Alright, and then push it all the way down, because now this is a little messy. I'm not sure it's actually worth it, but what the hell? If you like it, gives you a good result, go for it. Take our little AeroPress paddle here. By the way, this is a Pyrex bowl, so it's maintaining the heat of the water pretty nicely. Get everything nice and immersed in here, stir it up. Brew time on this doesn't take a whole hell of a long time. You can do it pretty quickly. So we got our coffee there. This is all the way down to the bottom now. We got the disc set up in here. This is the part you got to watch out for, because this is the part that will actually get really messy if you screw up. When you pull up on this thing, it's going to have a hell of a lot of resistance because of the suction, and you're going to have to watch that you don't actually hurt yourself or anything else. So just pop this in here and start pulling up. And it's going to fight you a lot. I may even take a couple of pulls to get it. But you will have, there we go. So what I do now is, because I don't want that muck on the bottom, and you're not going to plunge this back out, what you're going to do, take your cup here, pull the top out, and just pour your completely clean cup of coffee in. I'm going to do one more to get just a little bit more out. But that was actually a pretty good cup, in fact. No, actually, that's good. I'm going to leave it with that. So there you go. There's your cup of coffee. And you can see here, it is well, it's actually kind of hard to see because of the lighting. But it is very, very clean, very clear. In fact, actually, that's a good way to see it right there. There's nothing, no sediment in there at all. It's very clean, very clear. And there you go. You can do Clover type brewing with that as long as you're willing to make a mess. Okay, now here's the other part I forgot to mention. So the bottom of this thing is covered in goo, as you can see. You've got all your muck in there. And this is why I'm using the paper filter plus the metal filter. Hold a second here. Let me rinse this off and I'll show you. So when you take this apart, that looks pretty clean right there. That's just the metal side, right? When you take this out, the paper filter is right there, and as you can possibly tell from the other side of it, here's what's stuck to the paper. So in order to make sure that everything comes through perfectly clean and clear, using this gives you an extra set of filtration that you don't have to worry about that making it through anything into the coffee. There you go.